If you don't give up, you still have a chance. Giving up is the greatest failure. A deep dive into the Jack Ma mindset. There's a reason this quote hits harder than most motivation lines. It doesn't promise you a happy ending. It doesn't pretend life is fair. It doesn't say you'll win just because you tried. It simply says something brutally honest. As long as you're still standing, the game isn't over. And the moment you choose to stop, you've made the only failure that cannot be reversed because you removed your own ability to recover. If you don't give up, you still have a chance. Giving up is the greatest failure. Is often associated with Jack Ma not because it sounds like him, but because it matches the pattern of his story. Repeated rejection, long stretches of uncertainty, public doubt, private fear, and the kind of stubborn perseverance that looks irrational right up until it becomes history. Whether you love him, criticize him, or simply study him, one thing is clear. Jack Ma's brand of resilience is not romantic.
It's strategic, and it's deeply practical, especially for anyone building something in the real world.
This essay is about what this quote really means when you strip away the poster version and apply it to your life, your career, your business, your creative work, your health, your relationships, and the nights when you feel like nothing is moving. Because the most dangerous moment isn't when you fail. It's when you decide failure is your identity, and you stop.
1. The quote isn't about hope. It's about probability.
Most people hear "you still have a chance" and think of hope as an emotion, like a warm, uplifting feeling. But the deeper meaning is actually about probability. As long as you keep taking actions, the probability of a breakthrough stays above zero. The moment you give up, you set the probability to zero yourself. That is why giving up is the greatest failure. It's the only decision that guarantees the outcome you fear.
Think of it like this. Failure is an event. Giving up is a conclusion. An event can be learned from, reframed, and corrected. A conclusion closes the door.
The quote is asking you to stop treating setbacks as verdicts. A rejection is not a prophecy. A mistake is not a permanent label. A bad month is not your whole future. But giving up turns temporary pain into a permanent ending.
If you're building a YouTube channel, for example, you might post 10 videos and get almost no views. That's not failure. That's feedback. That's the algorithm gathering data. That's your content learning curve. But if you quit at video 10, you didn't protect your pride. You eliminated your chance to improve, to be discovered, to compound momentum.
This isn't motivational fluff. This is math. Consistency increases surface area for luck, and luck in business and life is often just opportunity meeting prepared effort. 2. Don't give up does not mean never quit anything. Here's where many people misunderstand persistence. They think it means never stopping, never changing, never pivoting, never walking away. But smart perseverance is not blind stubbornness. In fact, the most resilient people quit the wrong path faster than average people because they aren't emotionally attached to a failing strategy. They are attached to the mission. Don't give up means don't give up on growth. Don't give up on learning. Don't give up on the goal. Don't give up on yourself.
But you can absolutely give up on a tactic, an approach, a product idea, a marketing angle, a schedule that's burning you out, or a relationship dynamic that's toxic. That isn't failure. That's intelligence.
The quote is not telling you to keep pushing a broken door forever. It's telling you not to leave the building.
3. Why giving up feels so tempting. Giving up is rarely a rational decision. It's usually emotional fatigue disguised as logic.
People don't quit because they suddenly discover the goal is impossible. They quit because they're exhausted.
They feel embarrassed. They hate uncertainty. They fear being judged.
They expected faster results. They compare their Chapter 2 to someone else's Chapter 20. They confuse slow progress with no progress. Your brain loves certainty, even if the certainty is negative. It would rather believe I'm not good enough than sit in the uncomfortable reality of I'm not good yet. The first one feels like a final answer. The second one requires patience. Giving up also provides instant relief. That's why it's addictive. The moment you quit, the pressure disappears. The fear of failure dissolves because you no longer risk failing. But you also no longer risk succeeding. It's a trade. Short-term comfort for long-term regret. And regret is a slow poison. It doesn't scream. It whispers. What if you had kept going? 4. The difference between losers and winners is often just time. We love simple narratives. Winners are talented, losers are not. But in reality, the line between failed and successful is often just time and endurance. The person who failed at business might have been one iteration away from product market fit. The creator who couldn't make it might have been 2 videos away from finding the right format. The athlete who wasn't good enough might have been 1 training cycle away from a breakthrough. Most people quit right before compounding begins. Compounding is the secret engine behind almost every success story. It's invisible in the beginning and obvious in the end. It works in skill building, relationships, money, content, fitness, everything. When you practice a skill, you don't get 1% better each day in a straight line. Improvement is lumpy. It comes in plateaus, then sudden jumps. If you quit during a plateau, you never reach the jump. This is why persistence matters. Not because effort magically creates success, but because it keeps you in the game long enough for the nonlinear payoff to appear. 5. Failure is data, not identity. One of the most destructive thoughts you can have is, I failed, therefore I am a failure. That sentence is a trap. It converts a temporary event into a permanent identity. Jack Ma's quote pushes against that trap. It implies that failure is a normal part of the path. The real great failure is not losing. It's stopping the learning process. If you can train yourself to see failure as data, you become incredibly hard to defeat. Ask better questions after a setback. What exactly didn't work? What assumptions were wrong? What part is within my control? What can I improve in the next attempt? What did I learn that I didn't know before? This turns pain into progress. A person who never fails is usually someone who never tries anything that tests their limits. That's not success. That's avoidance. 6. The real world rewards persistence more than talent. Talent is real, but talent without persistence is fragile. The world is full of gifted people who stopped because reality was harder than their ego expected. Persistence, on the other hand, is a multiplier. It makes average people dangerous in a good way because they keep improving. In business, persistence means making sales calls after rejection, fixing product issues instead of hiding, shipping the next iteration, showing up when nobody is clapping. In content creation, it means posting again after a flop, studying thumbnails and retention graphs instead of blaming the algorithm, testing formats systematically, improving your first 10 seconds like your life depends on it. In fitness, it means training through plateaus, respecting recovery, staying consistent when motivation disappears, building identity. I'm the kind of person who doesn't quit. The world doesn't reward you for being special. It rewards you for being consistent. 7. Giving up is the greatest failure. Because it's a choice. Many failures are unavoidable. Markets crash. People betray you. Health issues appear. Family emergencies happen. Timing is bad. Luck is cruel. But giving up is often the one thing that is fully yours. That's why it's the greatest failure. It's the failure you choose. Even when external circumstances are tough, you can still choose to adapt, to rest, and return, to reduce intensity but maintain continuity, to ask for help, to pivot
instead of vanish.
Persistence doesn't always look like intense grinding. Sometimes it looks like quietly continuing. 8. How to not give up when you're mentally done. If you're reading this and thinking, okay, but what do I do when I'm exhausted? Here are practical approaches that actually work.
A. Shrink the task until you can't say no.
When your brain says, I can't, it's usually reacting to the size of the goal. Don't aim for the full mountain. Aim for one step.
Write 200 words, not 2,000.
Upload one short, not a perfect documentary.
Walk 10 minutes, not get in shape.
Learn one Photoshop tool,
Not master design.
small actions keep the chain alive. And keeping the chain alive is everything.
B. Make a minimum viable day.
Your worst enemy is the all-or-nothing mindset. Build a baseline routine that is so small you can do it on bad days. That way you never fully stop.
C. Separate feelings from commitments.
You can feel discouraged and still continue. Feelings are weather. Commitments are architecture.
D. Use the next rep mindset.
Stop asking, can I do this forever? Ask, can I do the next rep? Forever is overwhelming. Next rep is possible.
E. Track effort, not just results. Results lag. Effort is immediate. When you only measure results, you feel helpless early. When you measure effort, you regain control.
9. The hidden benefit of not giving up. You become someone new. Here's the part most people miss. Persistence changes who you are, not just what you achieve.
When you keep going despite discomfort, you build
Emotional endurance, self-trust, patience, discipline, courage.
You stop being the person who needs perfect conditions to move. You become the person who moves anyway.
And once you become that person, success becomes more likely, not because the world changed, but because you did. 10. The 3 doors rule. Most people quit at door 2.
Imagine success as a hallway with doors.
Door 1. Excitement. You start with energy. Early progress feels fast. Door 2. Resistance. Reality shows up. Progress slows. Doubt increases. Door 3. Breakthrough. You finally find alignment. Your skill meets the right opportunity. 2. Most people quit at door 2 because it feels like proof that door 3 doesn't exist. But door 2 is often the entrance fee. This is why Jack Ma's quote matters. It is a reminder that door 2 is not the end. It is the middle.
11.
The difference between persistence and obsession.
To make this quote safe and useful,
You need one more distinction. Persistence is disciplined. It respects health, rest, and learning.
obsession is desperate. It ignores signals and burns you out.
The goal isn't to suffer forever. The goal is to stay in the game intelligently.
That means you can
Rest without quitting. Pause without surrendering. Regroup without abandoning your mission. 12. What this quote means for your life right now. If you're at a point where you feel stuck, career, business, content creation, relationships, fitness, this quote is basically asking you one question.
Are you going to let a temporary season decide your permanent story? Because that's what giving up does. It turns a chapter into an ending.
You don't need perfect confidence. You don't need certainty.
You don't need applause. You need continuation. Even if your progress is slow, even if nobody notices, even if you feel behind, if you're still moving, you still have a chance. And that's the entire point.
Closing. Don't quit the person you're becoming. If you don't give up, you still have a chance. Giving up is the greatest failure.
It's not a guarantee of victory. It's a refusal to declare defeat early. So if today feels heavy, don't demand greatness from yourself. Demand continuity. Take the smallest next action that keeps you moving.
Because as long as you're still taking steps, however small,
you're still in the story.
And as long as you're still in the story, you still have a chance.